Hello everyone, welcome to another week in my 4th grade classroom. Hello, if you're new here, my name is Marily Sanchez, and I'm a 4th grade teacher in South Florida. Today is Monday, April 11th, and I am finally back in the classroom after last week's not feeling so great and not being able to come to school, except for the morning of Thursday so I can administer the writing test to my students. And then I went home. I was diagnosed with laryngitis and bronchitis, and I got placed on antibiotics since last week, Monday. I'm still on them. I have to finish them off this week. And I did test negative for COVID. So it's not COVID, it's just I got bronchitis and laryngitis. But I am back today, and I was able to have a nice full day with my students. All of them were here today. They were so happy to have me back. I was so happy to be back with them. So let me give you a rundown of our agenda and then let you know some of the things that we ended up doing today. Here's our agenda. As you can see by all the checks, we got through pretty much everything except for one thing in math that I'll just move over for tomorrow. And we ended the day with our science. On the board, I wrote some information about a problem we were looking at in mathematics, and we ended up actually having the students try to solve this on their own before we finished watching the Math on the Spot video that this question came from. So the way that I use my Go Math on the Spot videos is I show the video at the beginning and I stop at the point that the problem is given to us along with the information that we need to solve it. And then I have the students solve it on their own. I give them some time. Then I have different students share their answers, the strategies that they use to come about the answer. We discuss it. We have the students collaborate and talk with each other to either agree or disagree with that answer. And everyone pretty much got the same answer. And after we all talk about the answer and we go over it, then we watch the rest of the Math on the Spot video. This is the paper that I came up with as a model to show the students the expectations for next time when we do this again. So here I put the question at the top with what we know, and I put what the step number 1 was, step number 2, along with the strategy. I used 2 different ones here, one with the clock and one with the timeline, and the solution. Now, this is something that we have done in the past, but we haven't done it in a while, so I want to make sure that the students are understanding of the expectations when it comes to doing these type of problems. So that, in a nutshell, is what we did for math, and what I'm going to go back and talk about reading. So in reading, we're going over the elements of a story. So today, I actually ended up showing them the 5 things Flocabulary video, which goes over the 5 elements of a story. Plot, character, conflict, theme, setting. Yes, these are the 5 things that you're going to be needing when you're reading or writing a short story that's mad exciting. So we reviewed that again because they've seen it in the past. And we read the story, we reread the story, the shared read from Wonders Unit 5, Weeks 3 and 4. And I went over the story arc Jamboard that I have created in the past, along with the character analysis Jamboard. And this is what we were able to create together. So here's the story arc, just like a little roller coaster going up and down. So we have the introduction, which introduces the characters, the setting, and a little bit of the conflict. And then we have the rising action. So we have 3 different events that we put here for rising action. We have the climax, which has like a little turning point, something new that's introduced in the story. And then we have the falling action events that lead to the conclusion, which has the resolution. So that is what we were going over, since this is one of the standards we're working on this particular unit. And then we completed the character analysis on Sadie. So the first one is you get to know a character by what they say and what others say about them. So this is what we put, which is one of the things that Sadie says in the story. Then we also get to know a character by their thoughts and what others think about them. So we put what Sadie was thinking, since the story was mostly from her perspective. And then over here, we get to know a character by how the author describes their appearance. So we went ahead and described her. And we also get to know a character by what they do, so their actions, so we wrote that, and how they feel and how others feel about them. So that is a little bit so that we can know a little bit more about the character, and students can remember that these are the different things that they can think of whenever they're trying to know about a character and understand their actions and things that they do in the story. Then in writing, we started a new prompt. It's an opinion prompt. And what we did today is we analyzed the prompt and we read the sources. And I had the students choose the opinion that they wanted to write to for this particular essay. Tomorrow, we'll reread the sources to annotate, gather evidence, group similar details together, and create a writing plan. But this is what we worked on today. So here's the writing prompt. It is talking about chores and allowance, and students have to write an essay where they give their opinion on whether children should get paid for doing household chores. So we circled the keyword, underlined the topic, decided it was a one-part prompt, and found the APT, which is the audience, purpose, and the task, which we write in the form of a question. Then we went ahead and started reading source 1, and after we read source 1, we wrote what the main idea of that source was, and then we read source 2, and we also wrote the main idea for that source so that we can continue working on this tomorrow. I already went over what we did in math. And then we ended the day with science. We were reviewing and going over non-renewable energy sources. So we started by first watching a Discovery Education video on non-renewable resources, reading the lesson in our book, and then having the students complete the lesson check and work on the lesson quiz, which they didn't finish, so they'll finish it tomorrow. And I also show them the video that goes along with the lesson as shown in our science curriculum website. This is the video right here, which talks about fossil fuels and where we get them and why we use them. They even include a chart that shows how much fossil fuels we use and why we don't use other fuels like wood, for example, because fossil fuels give us more output for how much we use. So that's why we're still using them. And then the video ends with asking students what kind of energy sources should we use since fossil fuels are non-renewable. And this is the Discovery Education video that we were watching, which is one of the ones that is hyperlinked in our science curriculum. And that is a little bit of a synopsis on this type of video so students can continue to learn about non-renewable resources and the impact that they have on our daily lives. So that, my friends, is our Monday and all the learning that we accomplished today. This is a short school week since Friday is a teacher planning day, and I am opting that day. And we don't have Saturday Academy this Saturday because of the holiday weekend. So I can't wait to take you along with us so that you can discover all the learning that we'll do this week. This is week 31 out of 39. Yes, I can't believe we only have 8 weeks left this school year. And to me, sometimes this time of year flies by. So we just got to enjoy every moment before it's over. All right, so I will see you tomorrow. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the end of the day on Tuesday. We just finished a very long faculty meeting that started around 3:30 and just ended like 5 minutes ago at around 4:45. And I got to make this quick because I do have to make it to Orange Theory since I haven't been there in over a week because I was so sick. But I wanted to give you a glimpse of today's agenda and some of the highlights from today. As you can see by all the checks, this is what we accomplished. We didn't get to the character analysis. We only reviewed the reading response questions so that students will be able to answer them tomorrow. And in writing, we got through all of these. We didn't have enough time for the writing plan because we're still gathering evidence and we need to do it for the second source. Our lunch was a little earlier today and we got through all of math and all of science. So let me give you a glimpse of some of the activities that we did in reading this morning. Starting off, we finished our quarter 4, week 1 weekly language review that comes from One Stop Teacher Shop. So I wasn't here last week to do this one with them. So what I did is yesterday they did Monday and Tuesday. Today they did Wednesday, Thursday, and then tomorrow we'll do week 2 from quarter 4. We also reread the anchor text from Unit 5, Weeks 3 and 4 from Wonders. We were supposed to finish that last week, but again, I wasn't here, so we reread the story today. And as we reread the story, I took some notes on the board so that we can get to know the elements of the story and the characters as well. As you can see from here, we were determining the point of view, so it was third person, and the characters. Mostly it was Luisa, the main character, but her mom was also one of the important characters in the story. And we got to know a little bit about Mama from what the narrator was able to tell us, which actually fueled Luisa's purpose for doing everything she did in the actual story, which of course propelled the plot of the story. And then we went ahead and had the students work on completing the graphic organizer that I thought they had completed last week, but this is why I planned to go over these things this week, because you never know how the sub-plans are going to be followed, and there were some activities that I really wanted to make sure the students did complete so that they had an understanding of the skills that we are going over in this particular unit. So here is the graphic organizer. The students have used it in the past with other stories, but not with this one. So I had them put the story title on the top. We focused on Luisa, who was the main character. We talked about the setting, the where and the when, the conflict, the important events that lead to the resolution, and the resolution itself. And here are the reading response questions for that story. Is only 4 of them that the students are going to answer as it pertains to the story and the skill that we are currently focusing on in our reading unit. So that's what we did in reading. And of course, we didn't get to the character development, which the students will do tomorrow. And then it was time for writing, which we're continuing our chores and allowance opinion essay. And today we went ahead and reread the sources. We actually focused on source 1 mostly. We did read through source 2, but not completely. So we started gathering our evidence from source 1 and annotating source 2. So today I gave the students the yellow planning sheet and I had them write the topic again, which comes from our prompt, so that they can really focus on it as they gather the evidence and they plan their essay. They wrote their opinion based on what they have read. And as you can see, we started annotating the source 1, and I had them create a chart. So right now we are gathering evidence as it connects to our opinion. So source 1, these are all the pieces of evidence that connects to my opinion. And then we set it up for source 2, which is right here. We started annotating it, but we didn't finish the second page. So we will work on that tomorrow so that we can then create a writing plan and the students can then start writing their essay. After writing, we had our early lunch time, and after lunch, we worked on math, and we started with our weekly math review, which also comes from One Stop Teacher Shop. So for this one, I just skipped last week and I went straight to this week. We did this yesterday, which was Monday, and today we worked on Tuesday. And I love it because, again, we're reviewing the chapter that we're about to go into, but we're also reviewing the skills that they have learned in the past. So really, really love this resource. Then we completed this Engage New York lesson, which goes over solving measurement multi-step problems. So we did 1 and 2 together, and then I had the students work on 2 and 3 on their own. We did have to kind of discuss 4 because the students needed to understand that they needed to change the measurements all into inches, since the question is asking them how many inches taller is Mr. Lane than his son. So we had to go through all the steps in order to figure out the answer. Of course, I went ahead and I gave the students another copy of the math reference sheet so that they have it with them. Some of them had lost it, and I had given it to them before so that they can get used to it. This is the math reference sheet that they will use in the real FSA assessment. So I just want them to get used to it so that they can refer to it as needed. Here is the math reference sheet right here. What I have them do additionally is I have them write the kingdom of gallon so they understand the customary measurements for capacity or liquid volume. And I also had them do the King Henry died base drinking chocolate milk so they understood the metric measurements. Kilo, hecto, deca, base, deci, centi, milli. So they had this available in case they needed it to solve any of these problems, which they didn't in this case, but we will be using it tomorrow. Then it was time for recess and then music. And after music, we worked on our science lesson. Today, I made sure that I reviewed some of the concepts from yesterday so the students can finish their lesson quiz, because they were still not sure about some of the questions that were on there. So we went over some other diagrams so that they can remember about non-renewable energy sources. And today we read about renewable energy sources. We watched a 1.5-minute video from Discovery Ed on renewable and non-renewable energy sources. We read about it in the chapter and the students took the lesson quiz. And that, my friends, is the end of our day. And I gotta dash out of here. So I will catch up with you tomorrow. It's the end of the day on Wednesday. I just finished dismissal, and today we actually get to leave once students are dismissed. So I'm going to do this clip really quickly, gather my things, and go home because I'm going to take it. I usually don't do that, but lately I'm thinking more about what I need and the rest that I need so that I can give my body the time that it deserves so that I can keep going, right? Let me give you a glimpse of our agenda and go over a few things. So here is how we started the morning. We didn't get to the character analysis for Mama, I'll Give You the World. We only got through reading Miami by way of Fujian, and we didn't get to identify the conflict and response questions yet. I gave the students a little story elements flipbook, which I'll go over with you right now. And what I'm going to do is tomorrow the students are going to finish it in the morning. So they will have that flipbook plus the response questions, and they'll identify the conflict within that flipbook. So that's great. And tomorrow they'll have a reading test after they finish working on that. We ran out of time for some of these things because the students were working on the questions for Mama, I'll Give You the World, and we were discussing that. We didn't have time for bonus reading today. We did our snack, then our writing time. And then in math, I skipped the weekly review, so we had enough time for the chapter review test, which is what we use Attack the Castle with. And we needed more time for that, which is why we didn't get to social studies. So again, I have mentioned Attack the Castle in the past. I'll go ahead and link in the description box below my Instagram post where I share the Jamboard template for Attack the Castle. And in my caption for that post, you will read the directions on how to play Attack the Castle. So check me out on Instagram at Pencils and Magic Wands. But let me show you the results of our game today. So the students were very strategic today. They made sure they attacked each castle evenly so that everyone actually ended up getting first place because they had the same amount of attacks. And again, to play, we just basically used our Go Math Chapter 12 review test, went through each question, and I used my Wheel of Names to go ahead and spin to see which houses will go ahead and answer the question in the order that we're doing them. Everyone has to answer the questions anyway. So this way it'll give different teams, or in this case, houses, the opportunity to answer the question. And then they will choose who they would attack based on their correct answer. The orange one that you see here, that was me attacking a castle if a team didn't get a question correctly, which doesn't happen often. But everybody got first place, so they got points in Dojo based on that. So here's the little flipbook that I mentioned, and I created it myself. So right here, the first flap is character and setting. So they describe the main character and the setting, the where and the when. And then under events, they tell me an important event that happened at the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then in the conflict and resolution tab, they just go ahead and describe what the conflict is and how it was resolved. Then on the back, I went ahead and I put the character analysis part where they draw a character portrait, what the character thinks, says, does, feels, and how the author describes the character. This is connected to the Jamboard that I showed you earlier this week that we worked on. This entire flipbook, I made it in PowerPoint, and it is basically on one double-sided sheet of paper. So here's one side. Notice that some parts are upside down so that when you fold them, they are the right way. And this is the second page. So let me go ahead and print it and show you how I put it together. So here's the paper printed so that you can see how it comes out. So this is one side and this is the other side. And what I do is I just come to my paper cutter. And because this is an 11.5 long paper, I stop at 5.5 and I line it up right there, and then I cut it down. And now that makes 2 pieces. So once I have my 2 pieces, I go ahead and I flip it over like this. The conflict and resolution is the last flap, so then I line it up here like so, and then I gather my pages at the top. They're a little bit off right now. But just to kind of show you how I put this together, I flip it down and I line it up right there. I fold it here at the top and I just put 2 staples right here so that I can make the little flipbook. So that's how I made the little story elements flipbook. That was the main highlight that I wanted to share from this morning's reading lesson. And now I want to show you the progress that we have made with our writing, which is an opinion essay. So our sources, what we ended up doing today was we finished annotating source 2, and then we finished gathering evidence from that source. So I gathered evidence based on my opinion. And on the back, I created my writing plan with my 3 reasons, and I created kind of buckets with some more evidence to support that reason. And I went ahead and I started writing my introduction paragraph right here. So that's it right there. I also pulled my Nearpod lessons from last year since I taught 100% virtually last year to this exact prompt. And my virtual students went ahead and shared their writing plans online and their annotations, as well as comment boards, so that I can see what they were thinking about as it related to the evidence that connects to the topic of this prompt. And let me just give you a glimpse of that, because I actually also used it to show to my students how they can go ahead and plan their essays. Here is one example of a writing plan that one of my students created last year, so I can show my students this year. Here is another example, which is pretty tiny, but I was able to read it to my students. And here is another example. Tomorrow, I will show the students some examples of other introductions that they can start with this particular essay, so that they can see more examples and they can finish those introductions, as well as continue to write their essay with their bodies and their conclusion, which I'm also going to model. And then we moved on to math, which you already saw, and we didn't have time for social studies. So that is all that I have for Wednesday. Tomorrow is our last day with the students for this week, since Friday is a teacher planning day. So I will see you tomorrow. Hello friends, this is the end of the day on Thursday, and it's been a day. Now, I want to give you a glimpse of this agenda, but I'm going to tell you that things needed more time in certain areas, and we have a lot of things that needed to be pushed over. It was an interesting day, to say the least, but I want to be transparent and just show you sometimes I plan things, but they don't go as I planned. So we started the day with our reading. As you can see, we got through the bulk of it, but I needed to move the progress monitoring tests for next week. The students really needed more time for the Flipbook and the response questions. That meant that we ran out of time for writing, which we had 30 minutes for writing, so that was not able to happen. In math, instead of doing the weekly math review, I ended up going over homework problems, which I'll show you, that students had questions on. And then the students took their chapter 12 topic test. And after art, we didn't get to social studies. And that, my friends, is because I had a student that I really needed to speak with. She was having a hard time, and I wanted to make sure that I gave her that space to share her feelings with me, and I really appreciated that she was able to let me know how she was feeling, and we can figure out some ways that I can assist her. So I needed to deviate from this. Sometimes our students have different emotional needs, and the curriculum has to stop so that we can be there for them. And then by the time we got back to the classroom from walking from art, we were going over report cards. So that took up some time. So students had questions about the report cards, about their grades, about specific assignments, etc. So I spent some time on that. And then I updated the Class Dojo points by awarding the iReady points and the Reflex Math points that I have been a little bit behind because I wasn't here last week. So that took up our social studies time, which is fine. We're going to move it for next week. And as far as writing goes, we have another week to work on the same essay. So I'm glad that we have that, and I can break it down into smaller chunks so that the students can have a fully written essay by next week, Friday, that is fully revised and ready for me to give a final grade. So let me show you my example of the Flipbook, the reading Flipbook, and the questions, as well as the problems that we were going over in math class. So this is the paired selection that we were working on. We read this yesterday. So today the students just simply had to complete the Flipbook. So this is one that I completed myself. I didn't show it to the students until after time was done working on this. So here's the main character, description, the setting, the where, when. Here are the events. I told the students to just focus on one important event that happened at the beginning, one important event that happened in the middle, and one that happened in the end. And then for them to describe the conflict and the resolution. And then, of course, on the back, they conducted their character analysis, where I told them to just draw a portrait of the character from the waist up or the chest up, and then what they think, say, do, or feel, and the description that the author gives. And these are the questions that go along with that. So these are the reading response questions, goes over conflict, words that you would use to describe the main character, again, goes into character analysis, how the character going to the orphanage impacted her, and going over the essential question, which is unexpected acts of kindness, which goes over how people show each other they care, and comparing the paired selection to the main selection, which is something that we always do. So I thought that the students had enough time to work on this, but obviously as I was going around, a lot of them didn't. And also some of them are having a hard time focusing, and I know it's that time of year. It's gonna get harder, and it's just the nature of the time, right? So I'm just trying my best to make sure the students do have enough time to finish their assignments, but also managing different behaviors, which I'm going to make sure that I address those positive behaviors next week and reinforce, and then my bun just fell, reinforce those positive behaviors. All right, so let me show you the math problems that we were working on that the students kind of needed a little bit more clarification. It was mostly this page, which is an enrich page, which is what we're recommended to give our gifted students. So they had some problems where they needed to use a pattern, and I showed them how to use an input-output table so that they can find the answer to each of these problems. So I know it looks a little jumbled, but this is the table that goes with this question. This table goes with this question. And then this table goes with this question. And this one is connected to the snail question. So we kind of had to keep going, but then I ran out of space. So this is day 9. So I had to put day 10 down here. So again, it's just dealing with measurements. So I gave them the reteach pages so that they can refresh their mind. They had no problem with these. And then they needed to go ahead and kind of stretch their thinking a little bit more with the enrichment page. But at the end, it was really good. The students then worked on their topic assessment for chapter 12. And this is mine. I like to also do the test to kind of have an idea of maybe some questions that I do want to review with the students after everyone's done with their test, so that if there's any skill that I needed to reteach or to go over, I have the opportunity to do that. And those, my friends, are the highlights from today. Right now, I'm going to grab my things. I'm going to go to Flanagan's. We're going to do a little celebration for one of our colleagues that is leaving us, but she's literally just moving across the street. But still, she's not going to be a full-time employee from our school anymore. She's going to the school across the street from us. So we're just going to do a little gathering for her, spend some time. I'm going to spend about maybe 30, 45 minutes there, and then I have to go to Orange Theory because I do have a 5:30 p.m. class. And this is where I'm going to end our vlog for this week. Tomorrow is the teacher planning day. I do not work. I can't wait to just have a day to myself. I am doing a couple things. I'm going to go see my doctor. I'm going to go to Orange Theory, not in that order. I'm going to go to Orange Theory first. So I'm not sleeping in tomorrow because I am taking an early morning class. Not that early, 8:45. But I do have an 11 a.m. appointment with my doctor that I want to make sure I go to. And then it's the rest of the weekend to be with my family and just rest and relax before coming back on Monday and having another great week with my students. All right, so I hope you enjoyed coming along with me. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought or any questions you may have. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. It's free. And hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss any future videos. I hope you have a beautiful, magical day, and don't forget to smile. Hello, dreamers, wishers, and magical thinkers. Thank you so much for making it to the very end of this video and for showing your support. If you'd like to subscribe, you can do so by clicking on my picture down here. You can also check out my latest videos here and here. Don't forget to believe in the magic that's inside you because you are capable of great things. See you next time.